We have yet another winter storm heading across the nation. But surprisingly, we are not talking about snow here today. We are talking about ice, ice baby. We are talking about freezing rain. Even though it will be plenty cold enough across the south central US for snow to fall, at the surface, we will be seeing warmer air just above the surface, allowing for snow to melt into rain and fall to the ground and freeze. This ice accumulation will be very significant, with areas such as Dallas and Austin potentially getting over a quarter of an inch of ice during the next few days. This storm system isn't a cohesive storm, but rather a series of events that will culminate in a massive ice storm. So let's walk through it right now. Starting off Tuesday morning, we have our freezing rain here in red moving through Arkansas, Nashville, Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee, Little Rock, even into Kentucky, and eventually that is round one moving off. Now, round two starts to kick in here around 6 a.m. Central Time, with sleet here in purple and freezing rain here in red. As this second round moves to the north and east, you could see that Dallas-Fort Worth stays as sleet, but Austin and San Antonio will be getting freezing rain. This ice continues to move to the east, with Little Rock, Arkansas kind of being the dividing line between sleet and freezing rain, and Memphis, Tennessee, as well as Nashville, seeing freezing rain into Wednesday morning. Then we have round three starting to pop up here in Texas, with ice as far south as the Mexican border. This is the main event here. We could see that red is across most of Texas. That is that freezing rain. We do have a little bit of sleet in northern Texas, though. As this system makes its way to the north and east throughout the day on Wednesday and into the early morning of Thursday, we can see those darker reds moving through significant areas of Texas, including both Austin and Dallas-Fort Worth. We will also see sleet and freezing rain into Oklahoma City and Little Rock, Arkansas during the day on Thursday. Eventually, warm air does take over, and we see most of the region of the Tennessee River Valley switch over to rain, but the ice remains in Kentucky. Now, this is just one threat with this storm. We have that ice, but we also have heavy rain. Most of this region has already seen 2 to 4 inches of rain, and another 1 to 3 inches is possible here, especially with round 3. You could see that Gulf moisture getting pulled up from the Gulf of Mexico, and we have this moderate to heavy rainfall stretching across most of eastern Texas into Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, down into Georgia and South Carolina. This is really a multi-part event, and even though we are not talking about snow, this will be just as significant as any snowstorm would be. Ice is even more dangerous than snowfall, since most of the time it is clear. Sometimes it does look white, but most of the time it is clear. It can also take just a little bit of ice to have major impacts. A glaze of ice will automatically freeze first on overpasses and bridges, then start to ice over on all other surfaces. Ice will accumulate on all tree branches, and any trees that aren't cleared of power lines will fall down and take down those power lines with them, causing massive power outages across the entire region. This is just the tip of the iceberg, and we have a lot of ice here to cover, so let's go into the details. So here is the Weather Prediction Center's Winter Storm Severity Index. This basically measures how bad the impacts will be of this winter storm on areas of the country. So we're going to go through here. We have 3 colors to talk about. We're going to explain all 3 of them. So starting off here in this light blue, this is just where winter weather will occur, but it may not be that big of an inconvenience. This includes Oklahoma City, El Paso, just on the edge there, up towards Cincinnati, Ohio, even into the Northeast. This is just in general where you will be seeing snow, sleet, freezing rain. Now we move into our minor impacts. These are areas where, in this case, those bridges and overpasses could be frozen up, but overall not as bad, not the worst case scenario. This includes Nashville as well as down towards Memphis, but just the south and east of Memphis. Last but not least, we have our moderate impacts here. This is where the worst of the worst will happen, where travel as well as road conditions will be deteriorating very quickly, and these are the areas that you need to look out for those car accidents. So the Dallas-Fort Worth area is in this mix, Little Rock, Arkansas, Memphis, Tennessee, Austin, Texas, all in this mix. So with that being said, let's move on here to the Weather Prediction Center's forecast for the amount of ice that these areas will be seeing from this storm. So the Weather Prediction Center also has the total freezing rain accumulation from now until Thursday. So let's go over these amounts here. Starting off with this light green color. This is a glaze of ice to a 1/10 of an inch of ice. So these are the areas where you could be seeing that ice accumulate on the bridges and overpasses first, then onto the grass, the trees, the power lines. These are areas that have those general winter storm requirements, but is not the worst case scenario. These are those very limited impacts. Then we move into this medium green here. This is that 1/10 of an inch to a 1/4 of an inch range. This includes Nashville, as well as areas just the south and east of Memphis. These are the areas that you could be seeing some impacts on the roads, as well as on the trees and power lines, maybe some power outages as well. But it is not the worst case scenario for this storm, although a 1/10 of an inch to a 1/4 of an inch is a major deal. We will be seeing plenty of power outages and plenty of car accidents on the roads in these areas. But that is not the main story. The main story here is Dallas, Austin, Little Rock, Memphis in this 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch region here in dark green. These are the areas where you will 100% be looking at massive amounts of power outages. You will be seeing multiple car pileups. These are the areas where you do not want to be on the roads no matter what. We saw a few years ago that the south central region of the United States does not typically handle winter weather and especially ice very well. The entirety of the U.S. doesn't handle ice very well. Ice is very hard to deal with. So the best case scenario for anybody that lives in these dark green areas is to stay home, let the crews do their thing, have your plan in place for power outages, and make sure that you have enough food to last you for a couple of days. But we have had plenty of notice for this storm, so maybe the crews will be a little bit better prepared, especially since in February of 2021, Texas had massive power outages from a very similar system, and that was devastating. So maybe there's a little bit of change going on in the south central U.S., and that is definitely a positive thing to see if that does happen. But for this storm, please stay safe, stay off the roads as much as possible. But that is all the information that I have for today. If you found this video informative and helpful, consider leaving a like, subscribing, and hitting the bell. But that is all I have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.